On behalf of Punished for Protecting with Francesca Amato, I am one of her many assistants, and I have worked very, very vigorously with her for the past 2 years, advocating for other families as well as myself. I hold here in my hand a copy of the Children's Bill of Rights, and I have never, ever seen this upheld in family court, not once. Do you understand? Not even once. I have seen, I will list the attorneys that have completely ignored, and judges that have completely ignored these things. Ann Weaver, Kelly Brady, who is the AFC for my children, who is, if she zealously is representing my children, she doesn't even speak to them. CPS workers, Blaze Sackett, who gave testimony in court to the fact that my child had his head put through the wall by his father, but yet that case was unfounded, no credible evidence of child abuse. He has a scar on the back of his head from that. Lori Miller, who gave a false report in court, false testimony on record, as well as Clea French, who indicated me in a case on absolutely no fact whatsoever. I appealed it and it was overturned. As well as Jillian Hill, and she was presented with pictures of my son's face with a handprint across it where he was hit by his father. And there was no credible evidence of child abuse in that case either. I am so sick and tired of missing my children. And I guarantee you, every one of you up there have a child or a grandchild or a niece or nephew that you all love very much. And you would go to the ends of the earth to protect all of them. Am I correct? Of course you would. So I would lay down in fire before I would ever let somebody harm my children, but I don't have the opportunity to protect them because I have 1 hour a week under paid supervised visitation. And I am so tired of the fake family court system. Yes, it's a fake family court system because it is not, in fact, a court system. It's a private, or it's a for-profit business. The judges are administrators in that business, yet they sign orders every single day, destroying children's lives, destroying parents' lives, keeping the protective parent who is trying to keep their child safe away from them. Why? Why is the court system doing that? Explain that. I would love an answer for that, please. Thank you very much, Francesca. Exactly. It's all about money. It's right. It's all about the fraud. If a CPS worker who was up here earlier, they stated how they lose sleep over their stressful jobs and whatnot, it holds no comparison to the amount of nights that I have laid awake in my bed worrying about the safety of my children and every other child and family that I advocate for. I do this every day, 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. And I do it because I want to change the system. The system needs to be abolished. These judges need to be arrested and put in prison. Yes, thank you. I will name the judges at this point that I am absolutely going to see behind bars. I will not rest until that happens. Do you all understand that? Joan Posner, who destroyed my life out of Dutchess County, took my children from me, kept me from my children for an entire year. I couldn't even speak to my children. An entire year. And I understand that there are other mothers and fathers that have gone through that longer, but every single minute that you are not able to have your child know that they are safe, it is absolute torture, no matter how long it goes on. So Joan Posner, Tracy McKenzie, who signed an order stating that I am not allowed to speak to Francesca. Last time I checked, I have the freedom of speech. I have every single right to uphold my First Amendment to freedom of speech. Joan Posner signed a gag order saying that I am not allowed to post things on Facebook. Well, guess what? World, listen to me on Facebook. I don't care any social media. I am not afraid of these people. I am not afraid of what they are trying to do to me any longer, because they backed me into a corner, and I will not back down any longer. I got up off my knees because I am sick and tired of this. The last judge I will name is also Joseph Agito, who is the supervising judge over the 9th Judicial District. He took my children from me again. After Posner already had done that, he took my children from me after my life was threatened by my children's father. And I apparently coached my children in that situation. Okay? That is absolutely ridiculous. And as far as I am concerned, I have never, ever seen any attorney for the children zealously represent their clients. If you are representing a client, how do you represent them if you don't even speak to them? Please tell me that, because as far as I'm concerned, Kelly Brady, who is my children's AFC, has only talked to my children maybe a handful of times. She does not know my children. She does not know me. And I am so tired of hearing, well, you have to do this, you have to do that. I've done everything that court has asked me to do, everything, and I still don't have my children back. Why? They allow children to be, as well as on top of keeping them from their parents, loving parents, they over-medicate children to chemically restrain them so that they don't have to deal with all the emotion and the trauma that these children experience. So as far as I am concerned, the pediatricians who prescribe that medication, the judges who allow that, the attorney for the children who allow these atrocious, disgusting drugs to be prescribed. My son is on Risperdal. There is a lawsuit that was won because men can grow breasts on that medication. I have begged to have my son taken off of that medication, and it has not happened. He is 10 years old, my little boy, and he should not be on that medication, because the reason he's on it is to keep him calm and keep him quiet, because nobody wants to deal with his emotions. So as far as I am concerned, Letitia James, our Attorney General, we served her January 21st, I apologize. And she had 48 hours to shut down the family court system, and it's still running right now. Why? She needs to be held accountable. She needs to be held accountable. She is the one who is supposed to be the one who is watching these judges. There's no checks and balances in family court, none, no whatsoever. And if that is her job as the Attorney General, then she needs to do it. Amen. And as everybody that is in this room and all the CPS workers that were in this room earlier, quite honestly, I've only met maybe 3 or 4 good CPS workers, and all the rest of them seem they're corrupt. They're corrupt. In Dutchess County, the corruption is basically in the water. I'm telling you, I have seen it firsthand time and time and time again, not only in my case, but in all cases I advocate for. And I am tired of hearing moms cry to me, fathers cry to me, I miss my children, I need to be with my children, I need to know they're safe. I am tired of laying awake and crying and missing my children, holding their stuffed animals, hugging their blankets, and crying. There are certain days that I cannot even bring myself to get out of bed because of the PTSD and the depression that I suffer from because of this system. We need to abolish the system and arrest these judges and arrest these people that have abused us. The social workers, the people that have abused us, should not be able to walk around freely. They should be behind bars. And as far as I'm concerned, Joan Posner retired in 2018, and when I put her behind bars, that's where she will stay for the rest of her retirement. Mark my words, I will not rest until I know children are safe and until I know that this actually changed something and this is over, because there is no reason that any parent or child should ever have to suffer through this again. And if any CPS worker or anybody that is involved in this, a judge, attorney, whoever they may be, can take your child from you that day and go home and sit across it from the dinner table and look at their child and tuck them into bed and get them up in the morning and be able to hug them and kiss them anytime they want to? Why am I deprived that right? Why is everybody else deprived that right? There is no reason for that whatsoever. God gave me the ability to bear my children. I was blessed by the Lord to have my children, so how dare any man step on that? Thank you very much.
Mark Ronald Simon.
Good evening, everyone. Condolences to the families. Justina. I'm here as a father, a grief father, minister, and concerned neighbor. There's two sides to the story. I know this may not fit the agenda of this committee right now, but you need to hear from families like myself and the people that have spoken recently. I'm speaking from my own experiences with the family court, with CPS. We were victims of CPS in Nassau County on and around 2015 by unverified complaints by Dr. Bruns Coxio and Lisa Marty from Long Beach School District. In summary, my family and I were victims of Hurricane Sandy, and we were rebuilding our home, and there was a false allegation of neglect. Long story short, with the assistance of public advocates, one of them in the room, Dr. Marcus from Brooklyn, and also concerned neighbors, the claims were dismissed, and they filed the case as unfounded. My question to this committee is, why aren't the wrongdoers that made these unverified complaints and frivolous reports not punished? All right? Currently, I am a victim of constructive fraud, malicious prosecution, and identity theft. Magistrates at King's Family Court are Nicholas J. Palos, Elizabeth Shamus, and Supervising Judge Amanda White, are all guilty of misrepresentations, conspiracy against me at the King's Family Court. It has been over a decade, okay, of me making complaints to state assemblymen, attorney general, the president, Congress, decades, all right, a decade. I just want to emphasize that. Against these wrongdoers. Of recent, this is new discovery now, of recent, after reviewing the court file with Dr. Marcus from Brooklyn, usually when I went on my own to review the court file at King's Family Court, they would say there's certain paperwork in there that's, what's the word they use, Fred? That it's proprietary, or you can't view certain paperwork in the file. No, it's not confidentiality. Restricted or something, Okay. Now, just sidebar, I've been in other venues dealing with foreclosure because of what family court has done to me and my family. I was able to view files in Supreme Court and federal court. Why is it in this venue in family court I'm not able to view the whole file? That's another question I have before this venue here. Due to new discovery, they mistakenly left an application that was filled out by my now 18-year-old daughter's mother, and it alleges that I was married to her and divorced. This is a lie. I was never married to my children's mother. We were young, over a decade ago, but I've just found out that I've been maliciously prosecuted against under false allegations. All right? They had it in their file that we were married. Okay? I'm in the process of giving notice to this fraudulent court. I've tried over the decade to redress this issue. I've never been served properly. There's no proof of service on the record. There's no proof of jurisdiction. I've hired attorneys. I've did it on my own. It's just a mess. They keep adjourning, and no redress. Okay. Prior to this, I filed a petition for visitation for my daughter in 2003. Long story short, within that decade, all my visitation was violated by the mother. When the judge Amanda in Queens Family Court, this is where the mother alleged she lived, she ordered more visitation for me. The mother maliciously, all right, used the court system as a sword against me, all right? Maliciously filed police reports, 2 police reports during the era of President Obama's era of reformation with domestic violence and stuff like that. Filed malicious, frivolous police reports against me, leading to my 11-year tenure at New York City Transit as a bus operator termination. Okay? Mind you, this time I'm married with 4 sons, with my wife, and I can't tell you the amount of stress it's put on my marriage and my relationship with my daughter, not even seeing my daughter, who is now 18 years old, that hates me because she said I gave up on her. Okay? I painfully decided to not fight and drop my petition for my firstborn daughter. And the family court has failed my daughter. The family court is not a venue of adjudication, nor just. It's not just, nor or fair. It must be abolished. I stand with Francesca Amato in the abolishment of the family court and the child support agency. In closing, there is emoluments violations going on with these state actors. Myself and others give verbal notice that investigations being ordered by remonstrance directly with the legislator will be filed to revoke business licenses and persecute bad state actors. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anthony Sibeli.
Thank you for having me. I'm going to go a little bit over 3 minutes. And first, I'd like to give notice to the American flags there with their gold fringe. Because we know what that means. So I'm going to say what I said yesterday in front of a legislator. From what I have witnessed thus far in the year and change that I've had to deal with the family courts and child protective services, I can tell you that these individuals are not in fact government and are not de jure through their private corporate statuses. These courts are being run as banks and involved in daily systemic fraud, whilst tearing families apart through methods of coercion, intimidation, and the fact that there is no one that has accountability over their nefarious acts while acting under color of law. The reason why I believe that it is all too common to hear that these people that we go to for help don't have the jurisdiction or tell us that it's a civil matter is because they do not wish to impede on the state's ability to generate this blood money of Title IV funding from Social Security. While no one may be perfect, no one deserves to deal with these tyrants, as they are far worse than the enemy combatants that I once faced, called the Wahhabists, over in Iraq. I took an oath years ago to protect the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. These judges have also taken a very similar oath on the Constitution and have once sworn to act under it and uphold it, yet they are not. That is treason. Well, today I am glad to say that I have identified the domestic threat. Family courts don't offer any constitutional protection as they are private and not in fact courts of record. Make no mistake, when I might be mentioning family court, let's not forget the other courts that handle matrimonial matters, which are under Title IV programs. The judges in both venues are not acting in the capacity of judges. They are paid administrators under contract with Title IV agencies. That means that their judicial performance is tainted due to their emoluments, rendering them in no way impartial. You heard it. These courts are not only defrauding Health and Human Services and the United States government, but they are operating as banks through their grants and bonds that they create off of each case. These courts are not upholding the United States Constitution as well as the New York State Constitution, yet the judges are New York State judges. The Constitution of the United States has a 13th Amendment that no longer appears on current copies of the Constitution. The intent of this missing 13th Amendment was to prohibit lawyers from serving in government. I am sure that all of you in this crowd here tonight have heard the term a licensed attorney. Well, get ready for this in case you guys don't know. There is no such thing as an attorney license to practice law. The United States Supreme Court held a long time ago that the practice of law cannot be licensed by any state. This was so stated in a case named Schwarb versus Board of Examiners 352 U.S. 232, 1957. The issue today is that too many people trust the concept of having an attorney. Having an attorney makes you a ward of the court. According to uslegal.com, a ward is defined as a person, usually a minor or incompetent, who has a guardian appointed by them to care for and take responsibility for that person. As officers of the court, these lawyers or bar, British accredited registry members, are loyal to no other than that of their Title IV D and E gods and the British Crown, which they have sold their souls to. Most of their day includes lying to clients to entice them, deceiving parents and leading them into more conflict, and conspiring with Child Protective Services to manufacture lies. By applying the corrupt motive doctrine or Powell doctrine to this current CPS Title IV equitable fake court child trafficking crisis, we can all prove, and I say we can all prove here, the families that have been victimized by this system, that any evidence of a corrupt motive, any perjured testimony, and acts done in bad faith demonstrate illegitimate and fraudulent acts, thus rendering everything done to us as fruit of the poisonous tree, and that they were done knowingly, seeking a preordained result, most of the time done in ex parte fashion. These courts prey on families and rake in massive federal funding. This is a human rights crisis and consists of many federal crimes. Our State Attorney General Letitia James was put on verbal notice on January 8th of 2020 about these criminal enterprises which are masquerading as serving in the children's best interests. The Attorney General was also served notice by affidavit on January 21st of 2020, in which we broadcasted live on Francesca Amato's page, and which now has resulted in 19.5 thousand views. We had informed her that we knew that she did not create this mess, but she does have the power to stop it as it is happening under her watch. The State Attorney General has not yet responded to the people of the state of New York. Instead, she wishes to focus her energy on tweets and things going on in Missouri and instigating a propagandist agenda of insinuating that the NYPD is targeting MTA fare evaders only because of their skin color. Consider this to all of you, a verbal FOIL request, keeping in mind that you work for us and not the other way around. We know who the major stakeholders are in this industry. Maximus Incorporated is under Soros Fund Management. That means George Soros. You know, the guy that rounded up the Jews, and he worked for the Nazis, his own people, but now the internet wants to change history and says he was a victim. And 31% of their money comes from New York State alone, and they're operating in many countries. So to our State Attorney General, you're supposed to work for us, not for those who profit from human rights abuses which are protected under the Uniform Commercial Code, because the United States Constitution or New York State Constitution doesn't apply in this venue. So here's a list of what I'm asking you, while telling you, putting you on verbal notice. A comprehensive financial report, either a comprehensive annual financial report, a CAFR, or a court registry investment system, like Yvette Katz mentioned earlier, a CRIS of the following entities: Suffolk County Supreme Court, 234 Griffin Avenue, Riverhead, New York, 11901. 400 Carlton Avenue, John P. Callahan Jr. Courthouse, Central Islip, New York, 11722. 1 Court Street, Riverhead, New York, 11901. 210 Center Drive, Arthur Cromartie Court Complex, Riverhead, New York, 11901. 3105 Veterans Memorial Highway, first floor, Ronkonkoma, New York, 11779. Any others admitted? Suffolk County Family Court, 400 Carlton Avenue, John P. Callahan Jr. Courthouse, Central Islip, New York, 11722. 210 Center Drive, Arthur M. Cromartie Complex, second floor, Riverhead, New York, 11901. Any others admitted? Suffolk County Child Protective Services. 2, presentment of the legal structure, including type of entity, certificate of incorporation, tax status, capital structure, including identification of all shareholders/owners, articles of incorporation, bylaws for the following entities: Suffolk County Supreme Court et al., Suffolk County Family Court et al., Suffolk County Child Protective Services. 3, detailed report of all sources of income/proceeds on a case-by-case basis, names omitted, for fiscal year 2019 for the following entities: Suffolk County Supreme Court, Suffolk County Family Court, and the Suffolk County Child Protective Services. One more thing. Laws. I hear people mentioning laws. This is total lawlessness and is protected under Uniform Commercial Code, and our kids are considered commerce. That's the problem here. And see, when people say that CPS is being weaponized against them, it's no conspiracy theory. Even Nancy Pelosi's son herself, Paul Pelosi, who my good friend Patrick Howley, great reporter, he covered the story that Paul Pelosi used CPS to steal 3 children of his girlfriend, Karina Feng. If CPS is going to exist, this is what I'm going to tell you guys, that they should all be wearing body cameras. And believe me, that'll shut down their business a lot, and the state won't be able to make that much money anymore. If our state really cared about families, these courts would have adopted criminal court evidentiary standards and burden of proof a long time ago. Letitia James was put on notice, and I'm holding her criminally responsible in the death of Thomas Valva. Whoever was talking earlier, I believe it was the commissioner of CPS, mentioned the policies and procedures of CPS is a total liar. She's knowingly provided false information and should be arrested. These people have sold their souls and lie on a daily basis, as they just did tonight. Now, I also need to inform you that I have 2 insiders in CPS agencies in New York State.
Anthony, if you could just please wrap it up.
Yes. These fake courts are actually being run as banks with grants as well as bonds and securities created off of them in each case. The judges are in position of emoluments, and there needs to be investigations ordered by remonstrance, like my great friend just said, through a legislator to revoke business licenses and prosecute them. Now, one more thing. Well, 3 more things. Today at 4:21 p.m., Daniela Royce of ABC 7, who claims that she saw me speak yesterday, she contacted me and she wanted to know about this story. And she said that I sounded like a conspiracy theorist when I said that these courts are doing all this stuff that I just brought before you. And she even questioned Justine's credibility as being a good parent when she spoke to me. Now, also, Judge Lawrence, the other day, I happened to be passing by. I'm not even from Long Island.
Anthony,
and
please.
I saw him walking, escorted by heavy brass police, laughing, crossing the street. So you know what it is. You know what you got to do to make this right. And I just want you to know that you guys were all put under notice tonight, and we will hold you. We will hold you under 18 U.S.C. 44, which is misprision of felony, and under the misprision of treason, 18 U.S.C. 2382. Thank you.
Dorothy Price Hill. And Dorothy, certainly you have time to speak, but if you could try to keep it as close to the 3 minutes.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you and good evening. I work on Wall Street for over 20 years, so I'm sort of used to burning the midnight hour, so thank you to everyone. I just want to first and foremost say to Justina, and I was at the first vigil, my heart completely goes out to you. That Friday when I got the news, I couldn't sleep. And I have 2 children of my own, and I lived in Germany, not too far from the Polish border. I spent many wonderful times in Poland, there's nothing I know that can ever bring him back. And our love for you, and we will always be there for you and your children. I saw Gia last night. She's the youngest of the 3 girls, and I asked her first if I could hug her, and she let me. And it's about love. We're all going to come together, and we're all going to be there. So thank you. My story goes back to 2006. I was a single mom living on the Upper East Side, working in private equity with a very good job. I had full residential legal custody of my twins after my first husband, who's now a fugitive living in the Middle East, a Brooklyn-born American man. I found hardcore porn, basically snuff porn. I don't know if any of you know about that, but that was when my bubble burst and my innocence was really shattered. He threw the server at me when I told him I was going to take it to the NYPD. We were living on Central Park South, really living the dream life. My children were at Christ Church Day School, a private school where the Trump children also went. I was very active in our church, living a very happy life. I met a man online from Nassau County on a friendship dating site. He didn't show me his photo right away. I thought it was sort of shy. A month or 2 later, we finally had a date in the city. And I got to know him over time, and I thought it was sort of an anomaly. He wasn't the kind of typical guy that I dated. I gave him a chance. The person I gave a chance to is now under investigation for the murder of many women here on Long Island. And I'm going to tell you right now, the family courts are so incredibly corrupt. I found out today that CPS is electronically monitoring my 18-year-old son's email, which is a federal felony. I am the president of a fintech company based in California, based on all of my background having worked for Goldman Sachs and McKinsey. We are developing software solutions for banks to prevent money laundering from child sex trafficking, organized crime, drugs trafficking, arms trafficking. When I confronted my second husband, Christopher Wolf, and I will go public, and I have go public, and most of you know, and by the way, Patrick Ryder, Commissioner of Nassau County Police, believes me, which is very nice. I went to Dartmouth College with Senator Gillibrand. She's my classmate. Our other classmate is Alex Azar. Alex is a wonderful man. He runs the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C., and reports to President Trump. I mentioned to him at our 30th Dartmouth reunion what was going on. I'll make this quick. And he said, Dorothy, call me. We will talk. We will help you. Fast forward. I am the one who wrote the 80-page memo to the FBI about this child sex trafficking out of Suffolk County and the illegal secret parties being held in Oak Beach hosted by Joseph Brewer, my husband's very, very good friend, and by Jimmy Burke, the former Suffolk County police chief, who, by the way, the porn that was found in his duffel bag contained, allegedly, 2 of the Gilgo victims. Fast forward. I've gone to the FBI. I have gone to Congressional Congressman Swazi, who refuses to return my calls, Congressman P. King, who was very kind and helped me. The bottom line is that there is additional DNA in the Gilgo case that I have not yet submitted. I submitted human hair and dried human skin samples to the NYPD because Suffolk County Police refused to take it, and guess what? They laughed at me when I went to them, and so did the Nassau County Police when I told them that jewelry that was found on Peaches and her little daughter, that's my jewelry that was stolen out of my jewelry box by Christopher Wolf, who went to CPS in January 2019. My second husband, no kids, thank God, said to CPS, she's violent. I had to leave our marriage. Dorothy's violent. All of you who know me, I love to give hugs. I'm affectionate. I'm not violent. Guess what? 3 weeks later, CPS went to the DeVito home in Manhasset on Castle Ridge Road to my son, 17 years old, using forms 1021 and 1024, and kidnapped my son, placed him in foster care in Bayshore. He ran away, I found out. And then they went to court and they accused me of child neglect because I did not pick him up from probation after he pummeled me in the ribs and I had to go to Manhasset Northwell for emergency. My son has a conduct disorder, which is diagnosed, probably from all the trauma of watching his mother fight for justice in the Gilgo case, but that's going to be blown wide open, I assure you. And my daughters are doing spectacularly well at Carnegie Mellon University. The bottom line is that Judge Ellen Greenberg is personally responsible for the harm done to my children, also for not giving me an order of protection against Chris Wolf, who strangled me in our home at 315 Manhasset Woods Road, and is telling CPS that I'm the violent one. Let me tell you one thing. Sadistic psychopaths with secret lives of sex parties and online porn addictions don't make good dads, and they certainly don't make very good witnesses as well. His employer has fortunately come forward and told me they will fully cooperate with the investigation, because I will assure you right now that Megan Waterman, one of the Gilgo victims, told her mom, "Mom, you wouldn't believe some of the clients that I have on Long Island. They include judges." Thank you.
Mita J. Maraday. I think Mita left. Dr. Burchell M. Marcus.
Greetings to one and all in the name of Allah. My name is Dr. Burchell M. Marcus. I'm the Community Director for the Borough of Brooklyn, and I'm also the Brooklyn Advocate. I've been on this journey fighting against CPS for over 20 years. I've witnessed too many atrocities. I was one of the local investigators on the Nix Mary Brown case in Brooklyn when the children were neglected and Nix Mary Brown was killed. It broke my heart. And from then on, I took it very seriously to investigate how the system works. And as of today, every time I step in ACS office, they seem to be scared of me because I have the laws on my side. And I'm speaking of common laws, not admiralty laws, that's being performed in these courts. We're not at sea, we're on land. Admiralty courts have to go. All crimes are commercial. And when you deeming our people, human beings, as products, you're violating common law. I have a master's in constitutional law, and I speak at colleges and universities. And what I've seen over the years, they don't want us to speak at some universities because we're exposing too much of truth. I just want to ask real quick, how many of you have a law degree? Or how many of you have studied law? Could you raise your hands if you have any knowledge of law? I guess not. Silence is acquiescence. Now, it's your job to abolish, dismantle CPS and ACS. I'm going to fight until I die and make sure that these courts and this organization called CPS is no longer in effect. We have to abolish it. Some of these courts that are practicing maritime admiralty law, as my colleague just mentioned, the flags you have behind you are maritime flags. They're not the flags of the United States of America. They're the flags of the United States for America. It's too different. It's difference. If you study law, read Black's Law Dictionary. It'll tell you about all these codes that we're being prosecuted under. Too many families. I have 2 cases right now where ACS walked into the hospital and took children away from them. And that's a crime. Under the Social Security Act of 1935, it clearly states that no agent should remove any child without the consent of the parent. Read it. ACS is violating human rights. They are in violation of human rights. We have an attorney here. He can speak on that. Stop playing games with people. We're not persons, we are human beings. We are people. Black's Law Dictionary says that a person, the definition of a person is a child or one who cannot speak for themselves. So I am saying to each and every one of you, it's your duty to stand up. It's your duty to stop this atrocity from happening. Too many lives are on the ballot. It's time to shut it down. It's time to shut it down. If you don't take action to shut it down, y'all don't need to be sitting up there. You don't need to be sitting up there. They spoke about the bonds. Each and every case, all crime are commercial. Each and every case that goes into these admiralty courts are being traded on the stock market. Just go and check Dun & Bradstreet. You would see your name on Dun & Bradstreet. Your Social Security and your birth certificates are being traded around the world. Go and check it out. Stop deceiving the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Adelina Blanco. Adelina Blanco.
I didn't hear you, that's why.
Oh, that's okay, hon.
Good evening. My name is Adelina Blanco, and I am a resident of Nassau County. I am here to talk about two different sides of CPS. One, the side that failed me when I was a teenager. When I went to talk to my counselor about what was going on in my home, and they did absolutely nothing, to the point where I had to leave my home because they did absolutely nothing. I turned out great, by the way. I guess being out on the street at 16 years old taught me a lot. Taught me how to survive. Taught me how to be a fighter. And I believe in this. Everything happens for a reason. It was God's intent to have me here tonight because this is my first time here and listening to everybody. I wasn't going to discuss the second side, okay? I was just going to talk about me. But now I have to bring up the second side. 2015, my husband is arrested because a scorned ex-girlfriend made a false allegation against him. Okay? Her daughter, that does not happen to be his child, although he has a child with her, according to CPS, made an allegation. There was no investigation. Within 24 hours, he was arrested. Okay? Discovery was withheld from us. He could not even defend himself. Okay? Put up my house. Bailed him out. 3 days later, he had to go back to where? Family court. Okay? Because it wasn't enough for this woman that she already had him arrested. So now here comes family court. Okay? 2015. Okay? It took us until November of 2016 to have a trial because he would not and he will never take a plea deal. Because first and foremost, the first allegation that was made, we were out of the country. He was not here. He was 5 hours away by plane. Okay? That's one. When we finally got the discovery, we found that the child, upon questioned by the detective, the arresting detective, when questioned, has she ever done anything to herself? She said, well, you know, 2 days ago, my mother did tell me to take something and put it somewhere. And I'm leaving certain things out because she is a child that was instructed by her mother to do something. You know who should have went and got arrested? Her mother. Okay? Upon his acquittal, she decided that she needed to take the next step, which was family court. So finally, in 2018, everything in family court was cleared. So we said, wow, finish. You get to see your other daughter that you haven't seen since 2015. And he did the same thing that this gentleman did. He said, I am so afraid of what she can do to me that I do not want to even see my child. Okay? Think that's enough? No. Not enough for her. She went after his job, which is the same thing that happened to that gentleman. My husband lost his job. He was working for the state on an allegation that he was acquitted for. Upon testimony in court, okay, the mother lied 19 times. The daughter lied 30-something times. Okay? It took a jury of his peers 20 minutes to acquit him on trumped-up charges. Because remember what I said? It was one allegation. Okay? Then one allegation became 18. And I became pretty good at being an investigator. Okay? I had to help my husband run 24 hours of the day for every other day that he was alleged. And there is corruption. There is corruption in the court system, which Ellen Greenberg was my husband's judge too. Okay? Okay, Aaron, Judge Aaron, who is already retired, made a guest appearance at a hearing that was held against my husband. The same judge that allowed a woman that lied, okay, that gave her an order of protection. And now I know this, and this is why I say everything happens for a reason. At the time that she made the allegation, she stated that his older daughter that was in his custody was her child. And that child is not her child. So for 6 months, okay, his daughter couldn't even see him. And he had full sole custody of her from a previous marriage. So we have a problem here, a big problem. I forgot my papers, so I'm going to try to remember every CPS worker's name that came to my house. Okay? Vanessa Steet. Oh, wait. Let's do it in order. Miss Arnold, which did absolutely no investigating. Vanessa Steets, which was going to hit their home run. Lorraine, who I call the cleaner, because she was an aged woman. And when I said to her, do you have a son? She said, yes. I said, I honest to God pray no one ever does this to your son. Okay? We're in what, 2020, right? The woman is still going around slandering my husband's name. slandering my name, telling people that she has an order of protection out against me. Guess what? She can't. We have no familial tie. That I knew. Okay? But we have to dismantle CPS, and we have to hold everybody accountable for it. He has children that he didn't get to see because of this for about a year. Okay? And then after that, he has a child that he hasn't seen since 2015. And I know it's late, but I'm disgusted by the fact that CPS got to go home. And they didn't hear us. And when you guys took your turn, I know some people were making noise. I was not. I was quiet, and I was paying attention. And I noticed and I realized that you guys were trying to extend the time. I know how it works. I attend board meetings all the time. Okay? So I apologize if we kept you here so long. But we all voted you in place. So just like we voted you in, we can vote you out. So if you're not going to do your job, that is what we intend to do.
Stephen Kleinbart? Stephen, is Sarah with you? Do you want to come up together?
Hi, I'm Stephen Kleinbart. I am a survivor, not as the typical survivor that spoke before or others, but I was taken from my parents with reasons I won't get into that now, and it was not as what others claimed as not nearly as bad as was mentioned before. And had it just been that, I could have forgiven it and moved on here with my wife if they would have only left that part alone. But they continue to go after me, my wife, my daughter, and my parents. And that's why I am mentioning it now. I would not have been willing to mention it otherwise. Now, I stayed several times by a place where I saw a sign, which I believe is what every child should feel. It shows a child sitting in a tree, reading a book, saying, "This may not be Buckingham Palace, but it's home to me." And that is a general feeling of how any child is to feel by their parents. To claim that a child will feel better in another place, or that the parents are unable to care for the child, without any evidence, of course, is no reason at all to take a child away. Now, in December 2016, there was a headline of the New York Post, "ACS doesn't care." And that was after the death of Jaden Jordan, another child who was left to die by social services. And he was another incident of someone whose death was preventable. So there are numerous, certainly most, instances of these cases where when there's no evidence, they make everything wrong. There is evidence, they say there's no evidence. I would like to add on that there is an order to remove postings from the news, and not only it's unconstitutional, but it's a laughing matter. And I will, as a courtesy, I am not giving names here. And all involved know who they are, and all involved in the abduction of our daughter, and we've been through court, we've already disproven every one of their claims with irrefutable evidence. So if she remains in this court, it's hostage. So all involved, I'm giving you a courtesy notice. You have thus far dug your own graves. And if you continue any action to continue this non-case, you have buried yourselves, and you have caused yourselves to be the shame of the world, and you will be in the news for that as a result of your own actions. Thank you.
As you just heard from my husband, Stephen, I am Sarah. CPS has been trying to force us to divorce. Yes, you hear that. CPS of Kings County has been trying to divorce us for 4.5 years due to 3 things. One, that I made up that my daughter has autism, which was diagnosed by 9 neurologists. Can you even make up autism? No. Can you? No. The second thing is educational neglect, despite the fact we have state of New York records, transcripts, and proof she was never once neglected. On the contrary, from January 25, 2016 to October 15, 2018, the day of her abduction, she went from grade 0 to 4th grade. 2.5 years of 7 days a week, nonstop. Stephen and Sarah Kleinbart, mom and dad of Hannah Kleinbart, worked 24 hours a day with hired help to get our daughter to verbalize, to communicate, to socialize. Yet we were considered neglectful parents by CPS. The third reason why our daughter was abducted, in addition to what Stephen stated, was because mom created on February 11, 2017, pneumonia. Can a human being create pneumonia? I was held hostage and was taken away from my daughter for 6 months just now, April 4th, 2019, for 6 months because I prayed in front of my daughter 6 feet away. CPS stated it's detrimental, it's life-threatening if I pray in front of her. That is unconstitutional. Tonight, just before Stephen and I came here, 3 hours, CPS gagged us. We were not allowed to talk, not allowed to write. My daughter has autism. She has not been allowed to write anything. When she does, they say that we're harming her. She's a visual learner. The state of New York and the county, the district stated she must be not more than 6 student ratio, 3 teachers. CPS placed her last year in 2nd grade and blamed us that now she's 2 years behind academics. Furthermore, she's in a class ratio of 30 students. 1 teacher. 1 teacher. A child with autism, autonomic nerve disease, asthma. They threw her medication in the garbage. She has not seen her GI in 1.5 years. Can a parent place a feeding tube into their child? CPS stated, I, mom, placed a feeding tube into my child and had my daughter at age 8 years old state to her legal aid attorney, Mom harmed you by doing surgery on you. I have no medical degree, for the record. Can I do that? Tell me how CPS didn't lie to my face. Judge Ben Darvell Jr. of Kings County, New York, stated on October 15, 2018, the day of the abduction, there is over 20,000 records. Nothing against these parents and this family. Yet why was she abducted? Why was she locked off from her entire family? Why did CPS create two false, what's it called? Birth certificates? How is that legal? How? And yet everyone is silent. We wrote numerous letters to the fraud department. That brings another thing. CPS wrote in over 19 times. Parents are lunatics. The child is not disabled. Guess what? April 11, 2019, Stephen and I found out from Social Security, State of New York, disability. ACS, I cannot mention the name at the moment due to legal proceedings. The agency that is holding my daughter hostage and the foster supposed family are all collecting $733 a month since the day of her abduction. Okay? How can you state CPS is excellent when they lied and fraudulently and money laundering against us? Now, one more tip for the iceberg. Get ready for this, everyone in this room. We here are approved 8 consecutive years by the very agency under the state of New York as foster parents, adoption parents, and one more. We are also entitled to have children round the clock in our house, which we do have. We've had hundreds of kids, I don't even know how many, who've walked through our door. Children who were beaten, abused, neglected, where CPS failed. There's a child of 17 years old who became crippled, blind, and deaf, and 80% paralyzed because CPS refused to help this child. We have many more cases that I can state, but it will take at least another 2 hours, and I don't want to take anyone else's times. But each of you sitting there, you go to sleep at night, hang out by coffee shops, go on vacations. CPS stated Stephen and I are no good because our daughter, when she was 8 years old, requested to have a birthday party by the president at the White House. And guess what? We surprised her. First, we did homeschooling, 7:30 a.m. Yes, you hear right. Every morning. Our daughter was up at 6 a.m. because that's what she wanted. She had playtime. She had 3 friends nearby who also played with her. One of them was a homeschool child. And guess what? 10:30 a.m. she got break. And we made that party at the White House. We were told we're negligent. Is it negligent? No. 3 hours, 7:30 to 10:30 a.m. doing schooling on her vacation. We are told we are negligent. Now listen to this, and then I shall try to close for the night. Stephen and I are standing here. CPS has stated to us we will be most likely imprisoned on February 25th, 2020. Okay? February 25, 2020. Why? Because people around the globe opened up a GoFundMe to help us raise the money for the legal fees. Because on October 17, 2019 was the first day in court since April 14, 2016, our voice was heard. And that's why they want to put us in prison. No due process. We didn't get ever once served by the judge, not by CPS, not by our attorneys. My attorney stated April 4, 2019. The reason why your daughter was taken was because CPS needs a certain amount of children. They are short. They need their money. They need their paycheck, and I do too. I have it in writing. So no one can state that I do not have that. The next words she wrote to me was beyond shocking. ACS doesn't care about you or your child. They don't care if she lives or dies. Don't worry, everything is good. But just keep it in the background. Your child may die under CPS. Now, how is CPS helping? None of us slept. Not a single person in my community has slept since the night of that abduction, when 3 units of the police enforcement were called by CPS to surround my home. Yes, you hear right. And stated to me, and that my husband was right behind me, and stated the following: you have 2 options. 1, go to prison now, and you don't see your child. 2, we take your child now, and you don't get arrested at this time. How is that a help of CPS? Nothing was found against us. We have clear, clean records. How is that? I demand an answer. My daughter is suffering.
Sarah,
She's been
Sarah,
through
if you could
CPS
just wrap it up,
6
please.
months in a corrupt system under the guidance of social work, that they are teaching her to state she wants to be adopted. Yet, they took away 1.5 years of all her related services, and just a week ago, they stated in court mom and dad are neglectful because they refuse to give therapy to the child. How is that for a system of CPS helping families and parents reunite? I hope you take this to heart and you bring our children home. We don't need any more deaths of Thomas, Jaden, or Zimri, and many, many hundreds of thousands of more. End this anti-Semitism, end human trafficking. You want a job? There are plenty. There are plenty. Don't waste our tax-paying monies. Don't use special education children with disabilities and just because they cannot voice their own. We are here. Please help every one of them. I end with a heartbroken of another victim of Thomas. He is placed on my daughter's bed. Another child. And that's another reason why they're keeping my daughter away. Because somebody who interviewed us publicized on social media her bedroom. That's not a reason to imprison me or my husband. It's not a reason to take kids away.
Okay.
I demand this end.
Thank you. Victoria Navarro. Yes.
Hi, my name is Victoria Navarro. My son Ray turned 1 in July. He was taken from me in August because a lieutenant at the Suffolk County 2nd Precinct took the information from my ex about 17 unfounded reports that hospitals and doctors made for my child, that CPS unfounded because there wasn't enough evidence. So like these people here were saying that there's not enough credible evidence. I don't know why doctors don't have or aren't credible when they're the ones making the reports and documenting an 8-month-old child being brought back to his mother with bruises all over his body, and CPS says, well, it's unfounded. So ACS in Queens took it because the lieutenant said I had Munchausen's, right? I have Munchausen's. He called the law guardian in Queens and said, she has Munchausen's, she's imagining things. There were no bruises there, and there were pictures that day. And when he came back to me the following day, he had more bruises. When I went to court, I was ambushed by the law guardian for my child and the attorney for my ex, who made the entire custody hearing about what this lieutenant had said. There was no report, there was no affidavit, he wasn't even there. And my child, when I left court that day, a custody order was signed behind my back under my petition. The three of them went behind my back to another judge 2 days later, attempting to file a neglect petition. They used that order that went behind my back that I never got a copy of until October. I never even knew it existed. I was put through a fast-track neglect proceeding. I was forced. I was sat in a room with social workers who tried to force me to sign a handwritten document that said I never saw any bruises, and neither did the doctors, because that's what the lieutenant told them, that the doctors had told him that there were no bruises. That's how much damage a police officer, like her ex-husband, that's how much damage they can do because people just take them at their word. That's how much power they have. He's still a lieutenant somewhere, right? They just moved him around, but he's still there. And so are the two officers that threw me in Stony Brook that day because they wanted to protect my ex. They wanted him to take the baby home so that he can come back with more bruises the following day. I do accounting for a living. I see numbers. I don't imagine things. My baby never had a U.S. passport. And suddenly, by last Friday, he was out of the country to a non-extradition country. And they told me 24 hours after he was taken. How did he get a passport? Who helped him get a passport to get out of this country? I can never get him back. And this is what I have to live with. Pictures of unfounded reports. This is the social worker holding the baby, taking the pictures that were never reported. Right? This is what an uppercut on a 10-month on my baby looks like. Shut it down. Do you really think these people have star players? That's what a star player is. And now my baby's gone, and he has a 4-year-old brother who hasn't seen him in over 6 months. Does he even remember his brother? My son asks for him all the time. He says, "Mommy, when is Ray coming home?" I don't know what to tell him anymore, because he's not even in the U.S. But this is the amount of damage they can do. And no offense to the police, but they contributed. I have Munchausen's. No doctor has ever claimed Munchausen's. And the 17 reports that the doctors and hospitals made on behalf of my child are being used against me in court because I imagined all of this. Imagined it. My baby was breastfeeding when they took him from me. They need to go. They need to be abolished. They really do. I have hundreds of pictures of bruises on my baby. All of them are unfounded.
That was our last speaker. I thank you all for coming here tonight. I thank you for staying. I know it's a long night for all of you. Just please get home safe, all of you.
Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you for being here.